Right then, welcome back to another vid. This is going to be a music pickup vid. Vinyl, pretty much predominantly vinyl. Now, I've got to be honest, vinyl is something which I used to be into. Well, there's two spells where I was into it. One which doesn't really count, where I was a kid, and I just obviously have the memories of my dad buying it and going through the records. And I had a few records, even though I didn't pay for them because I was too young, but things that I wanted and I'd bought for me. Or maybe really my dad liked them, so he bought them and pretended they were for me. Maybe that's what it was. But things like Shakin' Stevens, Adam and the Ants, Duran Duran, a lot of bands like that I used to really love as a kid, and that was my first kind of experience with vinyl, so I pretty much grew up with it. And then the next phase that I had with it was probably in the, mid to late 90s, where I was massively into my CDs, but I thought, let's get back into vinyl as some kind of a nostalgic thing, again with the connection to being a kid. But I never really took it seriously. It was like a very niche thing that I went through of just probably, when I look back in hindsight, it lasted a few months, and really I only bought singles, and I didn't have that many as well, but I remember buying things by the House Martins, the Police, Queen, that springs to mind, and apart from that I think that's pretty much it really. I probably had 10-15 singles, 7-inch singles, and then that was it. And then I just moved back into CDs and accumulated over time thousands of bloody CDs, like a lot of us do. And over recent years, since moving to America, 6 years ago, whenever it was, I got rid of a lot of my CDs. Obviously, I didn't want to be shipping things over here. It'd be too expensive and all the rest of it. And so I've downloaded a lot of music, quite frankly. Obviously illegally. Why pretend otherwise? But there have been a few things which I have bought legally and feel good for doing so. But listen, everyone downloads music, right? So it's no big deal. But yeah, and I have also bought the occasional CD. I've probably got around about 100 that I've bought back since coming to America. And some of those CDs, not all of them, but some of them, many of them I guess really, would have been on previous vids that I've made, going back about a year. I started to get into making once a month a music pickup vid. And it must have been about a year since I've done that. I just completely fell out of the loop, fell off the wagon, which is a shame because I love my music and I'd love to get back into it. And that's what I'm going to do as of now. But the twist to this, of course, is that I've started to pick up vinyl again, and I'm really getting back into it. Now, all of these records that I bought, I think there's 5 or 6 here. Now, they're all still sealed. I'm not going for a sealed collection or anything silly like that. I just haven't opened them yet. They're recent purchases. Obviously, I'm going to listen to them, and to be honest, I've got them digitally downloaded anyway, so I know what they're like. And some of them I've had for quite a while, but I'm really getting back into buying vinyl and appreciating it. It might be something which is tied to nostalgia, but I think also as well as you get older, and I'll speak for myself, I just have more of an appreciation for it. I mean, I love iTunes, I love digital music. I know it's not for everyone, but I love how everything's there. It's all compact. You can access anything at the click of a button. You don't have to take a CD out, take a vinyl out, play around with the needles, put a cassette on, or any other format for that matter, mini disc. You just press the button and it's playing and it's fantastic. And I love it, I appreciate it, it's convenient and all the rest of it. But there's something for me, when I listen to digital music on iTunes or on an iPod, whatever it may be, I don't feel as if I'm really appreciating it, because the temptation is just there, just to immediately press the next button or to skip a song halfway through, and you don't really get to listen to it or appreciate it. Well, like I said, I will speak for myself there. And so I thought, well, what can I do? Because I want to get into music, get back into it, to a point where I was in the mid-90s when the whole Britpop thing was kicking off. And I was massively into that movement. I know it's not for everyone, of course, but I was hugely into it in terms of, the way I dressed, the people I hung around with, the haircut, the swagger. I had all that. Me and my friends loved all that kind of thing. And we absolutely loved music in general, not just the Britpop scene, but all kinds of music. And I've not really been into it as much. I've kind of had, passing phases here and there when I've been into it, but not really. I think just being busy with work has prevented me from really getting into it. But the last few months, I really have got back into it. And my taste is eclectic anyway. You may not see it so much from these purchases, but going forward, you definitely will see some of the stuff that I buy is very different and very eclectic. But what I really love about the vinyl records isn't so much the nostalgia element, and there is the nostalgic attraction to it. It's the fact that you really are getting something for your money. It's bold, it's big, it's in your face. It's not like a CD, and I do have a couple of CDs as well to show you, but it's not like a CD in the sense that it's just the same kind. It's small, isn't it? A CD's small, it's compact, There's millions of them out there. It's kind of almost like a throwaway thing. The artwork's small. It's basically a vinyl on a smaller scale. The vinyl records are so big, they're so loud. It's almost artistic. You can appreciate them. And of course, when you're sitting down and listening to a vinyl, it's not as easy just to skip to the next track. You're almost forced to listen to it. And like I say, that's where I want to get back to. I want to get back to appreciating music rather than digitally, where you can just click onto the next track and skip onto the next one, and you don't really feel as if you're appreciating it, getting it, understanding it, acknowledging it, and all the rest of it for that matter. So yeah, will it be a passing phase that I'm going through now? Maybe. Listen, a year from now I might be coming on camera going, God, do you remember when I used to buy vinyl? What wanker, what was I thinking? What pretentious idiot. But I don't think I am. I really do think I'm in that mould now where I appreciate it, I want it, I like it, I get something out of it, I'm enjoying it. And I think once you go vinyl, it's very hard to go back. I know a lot of people say that, and I do think that's true, because the artwork is just immense, and they look great on a shelf, or I presume you're going to store them on a shelf. And speaking of shelves, there's one which I'm in the process of getting. It's called a Kallax. It's made by IKEA. It used to be called the Expedit, I believe, but they just slightly changed the design. I think they made it more rounded on the sides rather than pointy and sharp and jaggedy. They're pretty pricey bits of kit, but they look nice. But maybe above all, they're sturdy and they do the job well for holding vinyl records. So I will get one of those, and then maybe in the future these pick-up vinyl CD vids will have the music shelf in the background. Maybe I can record the music stuff from a different room or from a different angle, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So anyway, I've got a few records here. I'll show you what they are. You might think they're rubbish. I don't know, but I really like them, and that's what you're going to get from me. You're going to get me buying records that I want, not that I'm going to take a punt on them. I mean, maybe to a degree. Maybe I've heard one or two tracks I liked, and then I've went out and bought the record, but I'm not going to buy anything completely blinded. Everything that I get, I bought for a reason. It's because I like the band, or I like some of the stuff that they're doing, or I like the direction they're going in, excuse me, etc., etc. So, as silly as this sounds, one of the things I wanted to do when I started to buy vinyl back just the other month, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to make my first vinyl purchase relevant. I wanted to make it a memorable one. I wanted to do it for a reason which was tied into nostalgia, but also which is relevant as well. And so what I mean by that is I wanted to maybe get a record by a band that I've always liked, that, like I say, is tied with nostalgia, but are also still relevant, current, and still a great band. And there was a few that were in contention, but ultimately I went with the Pet Shop Boys. Now, I think the Pet Shop Boys are bloody amazing. Absolutely love them. And so I went with their latest release, which came out last year now, and it's called Electric. And again, just look at the artwork. Sorry for any glare. You can definitely see a glare of the monitor there, so I'll try and hold it a bit of an angle. It's not working, is it? You're going to see the reflection. And the sides as well, you can probably not really work it out, but it just looks really cool with the writing on there. So if you're going to obviously stack them like that, I know a lot of people like to have them facing front ways, and that looks great as well. But I think for me, they'll be stacked, sideways. But just looks brilliantly, really attractive with the artwork, and I like the cover anyway. It seems very artistic, but just brilliant. And I've got this album on a download. It's one of their best, if not their best for me, which is a controversial thing to say, because they've released so many decent records, brilliant records in the past. So yeah, I really wanted to get something which is kind of memorable and nostalgic to start off my vinyl collection, essentially. And I thought the Pet Shop Boys was a great way of doing it. So this arrived the other month, and I was really pleased with it. It's still sealed. It's starting to come away a little bit at the sides, just with lying around and what have you. But essentially mint condition, as they all are. So yeah, brilliant album and a brilliant band. So that's that one, the first one, Pet Shop Boys. Now the next one is a band I don't know a great deal about. I've heard a few songs from them, and obviously I like them enough to take a gamble as such on the record. It's a band called Discovery. Again, look at the artwork. It just looks absolutely brilliant. I've got to get rid of that for next time. Does moving angle do anything? Doesn't really. That reflection. Maybe you can't see it, but I can see it. Just look bloody annoying. I'll sort it out for the next vid. But yeah, it's really thin, this one as well. Brilliant album, brilliant cover. Now, Discovery, for those who aren't aware, they're kind of an electronic band, but also they go under the guise, the label, if you like, of future pop, which I've never really heard up until recently. Now, what I'm going to do, and I might remind myself, if I don't, well, I'm telling you now, but one of the things I'm going to do in the description box below, I'm going to put one track, a random one, but a good one, or at least one I think is pretty good. Not necessarily the best, but just a good song from every album. I'll put it in the description box below, a link to a vid on YouTube, and then you can watch it, and you might like it, you might go out and download it, buy it, or whatever. Because I think being influenced to buying more and new music, it can only be a good thing. So I'll do that, and then check them out and see what you think. So that's Discovery, and the album is called LP. Really good design, like I say. Next one up is a band that they've been around for a few years now, and this is such a brilliant record. It's the Arctic Monkeys, AM. So again, you're not gonna, might as well stop showing these sides. It's gonna be very hard for you to see. But some really good songs on here, like Are You Mine, for example, is the one that I really like. Brilliant record. I don't know what else I can say. I'm sure everybody knows the Arctic Monkeys, but really pleased to get it. Now, I'll tell you another thing, actually, before I go on to the next one. One of the things that was putting me off for years getting back into vinyl, it wasn't just the hassle, because it is a bit of a hassle of putting the vinyl on and sorting the needle out and cleaning it and all that kind of stuff. It was the pricing, because vinyl records are quite expensive. I think the cheapest of all these was $15, and the most expensive was around about $30. $30 being around about 20 quid, 22 quid, give or take. Whereas you can get the CD for half that price, if not even less than that. But ultimately, I think it comes down to what do you want? You can settle for second best. Excuse me. But if you want something, it's worth going that extra mile, paying that extra bit of money for it. And that's the stage where I'm at as an adult, as a person, as a music fan. I don't want to settle for second best. I want what I want. And if it means getting the most expensive thing, the bulkier thing in terms of the records, the vinyl, then so be it. It's what I want to do. I'm still going to be buying CDs. It's not like I've just kicked them into touch. As you'll see, I do have a couple here. But I think what I'm going to do with vinyl is buy vinyl if that's an option. If it isn't an option, if a vinyl record didn't come out and it was only CD, well, then I'll get the CD. Maybe sometimes a vinyl will come out, but maybe I want the CD for whatever reason. There's no real rules in place. I'm just going to kind of buy what I want, I should say, which is what we all should do. Now, the next one, it shouldn't really need any introduction. It's the White Album by the Beatles. A classic album. One, I should say. One which a lot of people, even though it's a classic album, no one can deny that. A lot of people, I think, are on the fence. Some people really like it. Others are a little bit more lukewarm towards it for whatever reason. I guess maybe because it's a whole mix, isn't it? It's like an amalgamation of good and rubbish songs kind of thrown in together. It's almost like they had some really good tracks and some average ones that they didn't know what to do with, and they just put it all on one album. And maybe for some, that devalues it a little bit. But for me, it's one of their best. I wouldn't necessarily say it's their best, but I absolutely love it, and you definitely can't really see anything there. But yeah, brilliant album, heavy as well, because this is on multiple vinyl records. But really pleased to have this brilliant album. I will obviously put a link into a song in the description bar or box below, but you'll all be aware of the Beatles, so that one is kind of silly to do, but I'll do it anyway. Now, there's just a couple of vinyl left, and then a couple of CDs, as I keep mentioning. The first one up is a guy called Thomas Azier, or Azier, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. I think he's Berlin-based, but I think he's Dutch. And I heard this just by chance on a podcast that I was listening to, which I may touch upon in the future. And I heard a song called Ghost City. In fact, that's probably the song that I'll put in the description box below for you to check out, if you haven't already heard it. And he's just a solo guy, he's not in a band as such that I'm aware of. He seems to do all the instruments, obviously he's singing as well. Kind of very sort of synth pop, new wave kind of music, but relevant as well. It sounds fresh, it sounds modern, but it also sounds like a hark back to the 80s as well. And a brilliant album, nice cover. Really hard to track this one down initially. It's only just come out a couple of months back, and I knew about this album going back around about 6 months, if not more, but it didn't come out until March. In fact, it would have been more. I think I discovered this guy around about Christmas time, but I knew his album wasn't coming out until March. So I had this really long delay of waiting for this, and then when I finally got it for a decent price, I was really pleased. So yeah, brilliant artist, one with real potential. One which you may not know about, but one that Madonna, of all people, has been praising a lot over the course of the last year or so. And then last but not least, this is one which is very kind of caters for specific taste, I guess. I like it because I like it, but I also like it, I won't lie, because of the nostalgic attachment and element to it. And it is a band called the Communards, and it's Red. the album called Red. Jimmy Somerville, if anyone is aware of him, I'm sure you are. If you're not, you really should be. Songs like Never Can Say Goodbye on this particular album. What else did they do? Never Can Say Goodbye. What's that one? Bloody hell, can't remember. Mine's gone completely blank, which is embarrassing. But brilliant album, brilliant band, and a great artist. I really like Jimmy Somerville. His solo record that came out in around about 89, 1990 was absolutely fantastic. I've got that on a digital download. So yeah, really pleased to get that. Not for everyone. It is kind of like that synth poppy disco pop. Listen, I'll put a link in below. You may not like it, you might. We'll see. So that's that. Now, 2 CDs as well that I've bought. Both of these are limited editions, I guess, or special editions, deluxe editions, and they're both by a band called Nirvana, which you'll obviously be aware of, and I'll show them at the same time. We've got Nevermind. Bloody hell, I knew that would happen because of the camera back to front thing. We've got Nevermind, and we've got In Utero. So 2 brilliant albums, and a lot of tracks on all of them, because, you know, you get the demos on the back, alternate versions, as well as obviously the album version as well. 2 albums that when they came out I really loved. Now I remember buying Nirvana, buying Nevermind I should say, back in 1991, late 91 I think, could possibly have been early 92. And it was a very brief kind of grunge spell that I went through, but I remember going to a shop called Our Price, if anyone remembers Our Price. It was a record store which is no longer, you know, knocking around. I think they got rid of it many years ago. But I remember going in to Our Price Records, and I had like a flannel shirt on, like a proper grunge look. It was yellow and black checked, and I would have only been 13, nearly 14, that kind of age, and I could hardly reach, it must have been very small, I could hardly reach the counter even at that age. And I remember just picking up the tape and handing it over, and the guy like looking down at me, it must have been in his 20s or 30s or whatever it was. I remember him looking at me, even at the time I remember being quite conscious. It's almost like he was looking at me as if to say, you're too young to be buying that, you know, you don't know anything about Nirvana, but I did. I really liked the band, I really liked the album, and I bought it on cassette, like I say, and I loved it, but I didn't really hang around in the whole grunge scene for too long, because I think going back into early 92, I discovered things like, or late 92, I discovered things like Carter, the Unstoppable Sex Machine, and Kingmaker, Suede, the Wonder Stuff, Blur, all these bands, and then I kind of really moved into my indie scene. So my fascination with grunge music was very, very brief, but I do like it. I'm just not massively into it. But Nirvana, of course, a brilliant band. I remember buying In Utero as well, not long after it came out, and it's a brilliant album. It really is. Is it as good as Nevermind? Well, I guess it's subjective, isn't it? They're both brilliant albums. So really pleased to have these. Like I say, a lot of tracks on there. I mean, you're probably looking at 50, 60 tracks on both albums, which is pretty impressive. Albeit, you know, demos and alternate versions and all the rest of it, as well as the standard versions. So really pleased to get these, and there's a little side view, should you want to see that. So yeah, I'm still picking up CDs, but ultimately, I'm really heading towards vinyl these days, and I'm really liking it. I do really want to get the shelving, which is going to make everything look, you can't really see, can you? Which is going to make everything look really smart and neat, and everything else. So yeah, maybe I'm going to make these pick-up vids once a month, maybe. I've got a couple of others which are arriving, which I bought recently, some on eBay, some on Amazon. I don't really see any out in the wild, but if I ever do, and they're at the right price, I'll buy them. Now, it just so happens that all the ones I've bought so far have been sealed and brand new. But it doesn't mean to say that I'm not going to buy a second-hand one. I probably will. It's just the way it is, that so far all I've bought are brand new vinyl, and they remain sealed, although some of these will be open probably as soon as this video ends. So until my next music pickup vid, it could be next week, it could be next month. I do want to do them with some kind of regularity, but how regular that is, I guess time will tell. Thanks for watching. Remember to check out the links below to a song from each of these bands. I'm sure there's going to be something you're going to like, maybe be introduced to for the first time. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? About spreading the word, finding new bands, discovering new bands, and just widening, broadening your tastes and becoming a little bit more eclectic. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you later.